blow this scene. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Snarky Gun Reviews, and after a long hiatus, I'm finally back to do some comic talk. I had my new thing set up. I got this really cool old spinner from a friend so I could put some comics in, and tried to set up a nice little space here, I didn't fill all of them in, unfortunately. So I got this, I wanted to really set up a real space for talking about comics. A friend of mine gave me this vintage Arthur Adams Mutants poster from 1989. It was like a Christmas present. It was like a holiday present, because he knows I don't really do holidays. Just brilliant, which made me go, okay, I've got the X-Men on one side, so I found the Jim Lee Mutants evil characters, the villains. I had that framed, and I put everything together, and I tried to make up a space. And then I got in my own head and thought, wow, this looks great. You suck. Because I see everybody else's stuff is so polished, and I'm still getting back into understanding the world of comics the way because when I was first into comics, I was just a kid, and I wasn't into all the intricacies. I just liked everything was cool, and I understood some things, but writing and things like that weren't my highest priority. It was cool factor, shots were cool and the art was cool. I wasn't as much into writing as I am now, where that shines over pretty much anything in my brain. And so I let that fuck with my head, and I know it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter, but it does. Because it does, because people, when you hear people talk, it's they're like, oh, it's so polished, oh, it's so clean, oh, it's so blah, and it's oh, so it does matter. Looks do matter, right? It's just something that people are gonna go, oh wow, when you watch a certain person's video that their stuff is just always looks good. But the thing is I work a 40-hour-a-week job, and just doing this was a lot, and it's been one of the hardest things, is trying to balance my work and my passion, what I really want to do, which is stuff like this, to what I have to do. And that was another big factor, was having all this ambition and not having the time to do anything with it, and then feeling where's your identity in this universe, in this corner of what you want to do, which is comics, when there's so many people talking comics and so many more people better than you at it. And like I said, being ambitious and full of ideas, and feeling you're not going to reach your full potential because of all sorts of factors. It just made me go, oh my god, I freaked out. And so it's taken me this long to finally get back to being able to sit here right now and talk some comics. So I'm sorry that I'm giving a lot of backstory and exposition, but hey, that's part of a story, right? So the reason we're talking about this particular story, if you click down and you know what we're going to talk about, I say that a lot, is we're going to be talking about East of West from Jonathan Hickman. I'd heard people talking about it. I've been trying to get my hands on something from Hickman, and I wasn't sure what it was going to be. I know that this series just ended, so I thought, all right, it's already over. So all I got to do is pick up the trades or whatever, and I'll start seeing if it's any good. Because the reason I wanted to read more Hickman is because after House of X and Powers of 10, I fell back in love with the X-Men books, because the X-Men books were dog shit. Except for I still liked X-Force. I liked the end run of Cable. I might be missing something else here, but like they were like X-Force was like a 9 issue, maybe 10 issues. Weapon X. Weapon X was a lot of fun. Old Man Logan was fine. Dead Man Logan was great. But like the X books, like Uncanny X-Men and the Age of X-Men was one of the worst things. X-Men Gold, X-Men Blue. You know, the introduction of Kid Cable didn't help things. The while everybody else hates Honey Badger, I didn't have any context of why Honey Badger was a character, but I didn't. I actually kind of liked her. I know. Don't hate me, but I mean, I actually liked Honey Badger more than I liked Laura Kinney, and they were mishandling that character too. And so, but I was fresh back, and so I didn't quite. I was reading it. I was reading the X books like I used to, which was just look at the art, look at and not really care about the stories as much. Once Age of X-Men hit, I was like, oh, damn, man, this is really bad. What is going on? So when Hickman came out and changed everything, I was like, great. I love this. I want to read more from this guy. Because I'd only heard the name. I'd never read any of his stuff. But I wasn't so sure if I wanted to go back and read Marvel stuff of his. And so once I heard people talking about East of West, I just said, okay, time to figure out how to get your hands on these books. And I could have picked up the trades, but I'm a completionist, I'm a collector, and I decided to just start getting all the back issues, starting with issue number 1. So right as of now, I have the first 20 issues of East of West. And so today, we're going to be talking about issues 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of East of West. Because this book is bananas in the best possible way. Hickman is definitely a great writer, and I'm going to get all into this. We're going to end up covering this whole series, probably 5 issues at a time. It's going to take a little while. We'll probably do this like, I don't know, once every couple of weeks, just so I don't get myself, all too flustered and overdo things like I tend to do. Because of how, like I said, about how ambitious I am about certain things. So, first off, what is East of West? Well, East of West, it's a lot of things, and I'm not going to say that as of reading issues 1 through 5, because I've only read issues 1 through 5. There's so many moving parts, and I'm not going to say that I fully understand it right now, because I don't think you're meant to. I think, like any good story, you're meant to understand things as it goes along, as you spread out the pieces, because there's like this whole thing about a message, and it starts out like, well, one of the basic ways I can describe it is it's alternate history, and it begins with this place, this very special place, right? Where in the middle of this area, these 4 glowing spaces open up, and 3 characters get out of these spaces. But there's a 4th, and the 4th is missing, and that should be here. What we find out is these are 3 of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and as in this iteration is important. They look like children. The 4th one is not there, and they roll bones, which is really interesting. And since he's not there, they say, the eye, the feather, the bullet, the bone, no mistaking those. He's really left us. We were 4, but now it's just us 3. Well, that settles it then. We kill him. So, you don't really know which ones of these, which 3 the horsemen are there, which one is missing at this point. And I gotta stop saying But this first book is called Out of the Wasteland, and this is where we find out the history. So in this beginning, I'll explain to you what East of West world is. So, and this is going to be a little wordy because I'm just going to read this, but like, basically, it says the Third Great Awakening happened around the same time as the Civil War, seizing Elijah Longstreet in its embrace in the year 1862. Preceding that, he had served in the 2nd Corps Army of North Virginia under General Thomas Jonathan Stonewall Jackson. Elijah was loyal gray until the Battle of Chantilly. That's when he got the word, abandoned war, and was born again the prophet Longstreet. So this takes place where it starts here in the Civil War. And this guy, all of a sudden, this Longstreet, becomes like this religious prophet. He finds the word, which I think is what they're talking about later on when they bring up this thing that throughout the series, or at least these first 5 issues, is called the message. And we find out later that it says 1 year later, Standing Bear, the Ponca chief and only remaining holdout of the Native American tribes, laid down arms before the strong man of the Lakota. Red Cloud became chief of chiefs. There was smoke, oral histories coalesced, and the endless Indian nation came into being. So in this, the Indians weren't just completely wiped out. That there was an endless Indian nation created, which, boom, right on board. When I hear this, I'm like, okay, whoa, okay, what's going on? Soon, the Union found itself fighting a war on 2 fronts, righteousness and tyranny, and the resulting quagmire suited their hypocrisy. Conflict drug on until finally reaching a protracted hello a decade later. A war that was not a war, lasting 20 more years until the fire in the sky. So, between the Indian nation and the South and the Union, this fight went on for 20 more years. And it's crazy town bananas. Like, I love this. Now, this fire in the sky, they say that the comet should have struck some other land. That God, like with Joshua and the Amorites, somehow held the world up, kept it from spinning just so he could deliver judgment. So, in this top frame here, it kind of looks like an A-bomb going off. They say it's a comet. Right now I'm taking that at face value, but they're kind of putting a religious spin on it, like this was an act of God, and somehow the world is still spinning after it, and so we need to stop. Very much like how the A-bomb was used in World War II to finally say, okay, enough. Boom. Like dropping the mic, but like atomically. And so this brings everybody together. It says, divine intervention or not, that event marked the end of hostilities, the remarking of territory and formation of what would become the 7 nations of America. So all these people finally stop and come together and divide up the nation. And it says that the accords were signed at Armistice, the epicenter of the event where the thing hit. On November 9th, 1908, it was significant, historic, and the 3rd most important thing to happen that day. You go, okay, well, what? As in Atlanta, the prophet Longstreet penned the 2nd book of Revelation. And in Chiowee, Red Cloud shared a waking vision with his council of elders. Then upon completion, and by all accounts at exactly the same time, both men collapsed and died. The words spoken and the words written down, interlocking apocrypha, collectively called by believers the message, remained an incomplete, unsolvable mystery for half a century until the day it was completed. So one guy writes down a story, the white guy writes down the story, and then the Indian, he does what's in the tradition of Indian people, which is to say it out loud so that people can spread the word, the message. I've always found that very interesting and a really cool way of doing things. I remember first hearing about that way of doing things in the X-Files back with the Blessing Way episode in like season 3. Very, very cool. So, on his deathbed in New Shanghai, the exiled Chinese leader, Chairman Mao Zedong, penned an addendum to his little red book, his portion, the missing portion, of the message. The 3 were one, and the one, it was the story of the world's end. And we hear, like, these guys say they're kind of like words. Then there was a lone man, a broken sparrow, one apart, a son of night, the first of 4, the end of everything. And this is where we're introduced to the 4th Horseman of the Apocalypse, who did not ever stop. So what I'm thinking is, and how this story goes, is that the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and we don't know how many apocalypses there have been, because it sounds like this just keeps happening. Like an endless cycle. So it makes you wonder how old the world really is, how old the planet really is, that kind of thing. Those kind of interesting sci-fi elements, but also, making it like very I'm not gonna say grounded, but like there's religious aspects to this. There's sci-fi aspects to this. There's Western aspects to this, and I'm all in. So after all this kind of setup, and I am sorry for giving you a lot of exposition, but I think it's important to tell you at least the beginning of this story so you can understand like if this kind of piques your interest as far as like whether you want to read it or not. And then just like that, in classic Western fashion, we have like an old bar, a Western like bar, where we're introduced to the character of Death, who is the horseman that never showed up. So the other ones would be like war, pestilence, and what, I think famine maybe? I don't know. I forget a lot of religious stuff. And so he goes into this place. I mean, classic, like, Western style. I love his look, the all white. You know, he doesn't look like a kid because he never, like... I think, in the end, the horsemen are supposed to, like, basically die and then be reborn. Well, this one, he was supposed to die, but didn't. And so he's been here this whole time. And we slowly find out what happened to him while he's been here. And kind of changed the way that he does, like, something happens to him, whatever, that leads him on this revenge trail. And he's got two Indian, like, they call them witches. The other guy in white here, sorry. And there's a girl. They go into the bar, and there's Union soldiers, and, you know, it goes kind of like where you expect it to go. Because he's like... he's looking for something. And he says... he kind of threatens the bartender. I love that we don't see the action. Like, it's just those two just taking all these soldiers apart. And... the bartender finally figures out who this is. He says, "Now don't say my name unless you really mean to call for me, because you call, I surely will come." And he's like, one of his people says, "Something is hidden here." By the way, the art in this, I want to touch on that really quick, by Nick Dragotta. Holy crap, this is great. It really looks kind of anime-ish, kind of manga-ish, which I really dig. But Death is looking for something that they took. And it's like, the bartender's like, well, first Death's like, "I have what I came for. You think you could hide from me, Hunter, that your deeds wouldn't find you out? It was just a job. I didn't even know who I was tracking. I swear I didn't know what they were going to do. I'll give you whatever you want. But you can't give me what I want, can you?" And he's like, "No." "Then what good are you?" So he says, "Well, I'll give you the next best thing, the men who hired me. They won't be hard to find once I name them." And so he gives his message out to these, or he gives the people's names on a list of whoever wronged Death, and has now got him coming after him. And so he's on the run to find all the people on the list that did something terrible to him. We don't really know. And we see we bookend this with the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Some of them, they're very interesting too, because they're kids and they look like kids, but they're not kids. You know what I'm saying? And one of them's like, "I hate this part," because they're standing on like a pile of bodies basically, and just like dismembering them and making sure they're actually dead. And one is like, "I hate this part. Killing people? It's kind of what we do. I like this part, the killing. I'm talking about being reborn. A season as children while we transition, and the other changes." Oh, so maybe they always start as children. I'm catching this just right now. Oh, I love it. I mean, is there anything better than one of these parasite freakouts, like realizing they're about to get stuck by a 6-year-old? They're very detached. They have to be the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. And so we go to this place called the White Tower, which again, man, just I freaking love this. And it was giving me the feels of House of X and Powers of 10, a lot of this. Where the White Tower is like the White House. And we see Death comes for the President of the United States. Clearly one of the guys on the list. And so he comes to him and he's like, how'd you get in here? Well, there are no doors I can't walk through anytime I please. No place I can't reach. No man I can't meet. Who are you again? It'll come to you. So this is it, the very heart of your republic, the seat of power. Such a meager meal, power granted. Lose the loyalty and gratitude of the people and it all falls apart. What a fragile thing. Do you believe in hell, Mr. President? And he's like, there are agents just outside. All I have to do is, no, don't do this. It's not the way you want to go. There's no move here. There's no bluffing, no posturing, no politicking. Here at the end, you need to accept what you're responsible for. I don't know who the hell you think you are, but we are done here. Well, that's true, but not the way you mean. There's no salvation out there, Mr. President. And, he tries to run away, and he gets into the hallway and sees, like, all these dudes are just taken apart, man. They're all dead. And he shoots him in the leg. And he says, you took something from me. I don't know what you took something from me in the Badlands. You? We killed you. No, what you did was worse. I don't know. I don't have what you're looking for. I know. I can help. Not looking for help today. Then what is this? A message. I have been called Abaddon, the Reaper, Foolsbane, and the Grey Walker. Now, say my real name, you son of a bitch. Call it out. Death. If you find hell lonely, wait. Company is coming soon. And I'm telling you, man, like you read that and you see these panels and it's just like, it's like Jules Winfield in Pulp Fiction where he's reading, the scripture about, and I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. It's like that, man. Right before he blows away, what's his name? I don't know. I can't remember that guy's name. Frank Whaley. And so, you wanted the end times? Well, here they are. And that's issue number 1. Now, I'm not going to go fully. I kind of wanted to just talk, like, mainly get you in, your whistle wet. Because the next 5 issues deals with what he's looking for, and who he was during this time period and what they took from him. There are numerous new characters that are introduced, and the Horsemen of the Apocalypse are trying to find a new president. They keep cutting the heads off of all of them because they won't do loyalty. I love this. There's so much going on. So they're looking, but they find somebody, right? Eventually you get down the line, you're going to find somebody who will do what you want, or what they're looking for is a believer. And in these kind of things, there's always somebody that's going to be the believer character, the one that's really dangerous. The one that, I don't want to go that far, but we find out that there was a woman, and she is being held captured she is part of the New Shanghai. She's the daughter of the leader of New Shanghai, and she tamed death. And they, I don't want to spoil too much, but they, because I want to talk about them, right? So I guess I should just talk about them, because if you haven't read these, you need to read these. But they did something to death. They took something from death, and he had a wife who was this lady. So they took something from him and her. Kind of easy to fit this together, right? And we're also introduced to this really cool character who looks like Uncle Sam. Kind of reminds me of the character that's in, or what they're talking about, this character in Undiscovered Country by Snyder and Soule. But throughout the rest of these issues, right, Death is going on this journey. First he needs to find his wife that he finds out isn't dead. And then after that, he needs to find the thing that they took, that they thought was dead but isn't. And how all these players are trying to manipulate the situation and trying to, like, stay alive before death can get them. That's as far as I'm going to take it for these first 5 issues, to be honest with you. Because and maybe I'll go into greater depth when I read issues 6 through 10. But this was more to just kind of introduce you guys. So throughout the first 5 issues, we get a really good arc of where we're going, where we're headed. Lots of violence. It has definitely got a mixture of Eastern and Western like types of philosophies, but mixed in with, religious philosophies, sci-fi tropes that are good. And I can't recommend this book series highly enough. There's no shame in picking up trades, but like I said, I had to go find the real like issues to talk about it, and just for my own collection. The trades are out there. I'm sure that the final trade probably isn't, but if you want something new and different, which is what I'm trying to get into more and more, as like Marvel and DC keep disappointing me in the long run, I'm trying to find good, interesting stories by great writers who do work for the big two. And we'll be talking about Middle West from Scotty Young on Image as well. I've been reading stuff like Once and Future by Karen Gillan, and Something is Killing the Children, and even like The Last God, which is a DC Black Label book. That's also a pretty awesome story. And it's not like I've given up on all like DC or Marvel, because I still love books like Daredevil. And I think the new Star Wars is pretty good. And there's we got new Batman with Tinian on board. So I'm not completely giving up, but I'm trying to branch out and talk about new things and books you guys might not have heard of, stuff that really deserves a read. So anyway, if you liked this little discussion about East of West #1, mostly, and again, I do this. I didn't have any notes for this. I probably should have taken some, but whatever. It's me trying to get back into my comics thing. So if you like this, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications. Otherwise, you can find me at reviews_gun. If you feel so inclined, you can donate to my channel at my Ko-Fi page at ko-fi.com/SpokenGunReviews. So have a great day, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.